So in this video, we're going to take a close look at what in-betweens are and how to work with them. As you saw in the previous video, in-betweens are literally the drawings that come between the key drawings or the key poses. So they are those drawings or frames that really fill out the motion and create the sense of motion. This ball isn't actually moving, but each in-between is placed in such a way, or it's positioned in such a way that the eye can read it progressively and think that it's moving. And as I showed you already, you can very easily automate the motion between two keyframes if you want just a very straightforward, constant speed from one key pose to the other. But as an animator, you'll always want to be able to control the motion and also control where you place them relative to your keyframes. That will really determine how the animation will look. So the two questions really are, how many in-betweens do you use and where do you place them? If you've already determined from your keys that it will take 1 second, for example, for a ball to go from A to B, then that already tells you how many in-betweens you need, because you'll either need 24 or 12. Remember, we're animating on twos, so we are just making a drawing on every second frame. And then, as to the question, where do you put your in-betweens? That's determined by whether or not you want a fast or a slow speed. So in this sense, really there's two things to know. Drawings that are spaced close together will actually slow down the motion or the action, and drawings that are spaced far apart will appear to speed up the action or the motion. So this example is of two balls going from one side to the other at different speeds. They both have the same starting and ending position, but this one is fast and it just has a few frames, and this one is slower and it has way more frames. You can see here on the timeline that the slow ball takes twice as long to get to the same position, and that's its timing. The timing is slower than the first ball. That one takes about half a second, and the slow ball takes a full second. But you can have the same timing and still affect the appearance of speed simply by adjusting the spacing of your in-betweens. So take a look at this example. This is 4 separate animations of a ball going from left to right, and when I play it, it really looks like they're moving at different speeds, doesn't it? In a sense they are, but yet they all have the exact same timing. It actually takes 1 second for all of them to get from A to B. But because of the spacing of the in-betweens in each one, they've got different variations of speed. This one here is just a constant even speed. And this one here starts off slow and speeds up into the end pose. This one speeds out of the first pose and then really slows down into the end. And this animation here has what's called a slow out and a slow in. So it slows out at the beginning, it kind of speeds up here, and then it slows in to that last key pose. So that's essentially how you can add contrasting motion between two keyframes in your animation. So now let's break it down. I want to show you how to go about applying that to your in-betweening. And there's basically two systems of in-betweening that I want to show you. I'm going to create a new document. I'm going to set my frame rate to 24. And then I'm just going to make my first drawing in this frame here on the left-hand side. Then I'll move forwards in the timeline and create another keyframe, and then drag that drawing over to the right. So now I've got my two poses, my starting pose and my ending pose. And I'm going to turn on the onion skinning and drag it back so I can see both drawings at the same time. And right in the middle, so on my timeline, I'm going to be at frame 9. I'll create another keyframe there and drag that drawing right into the very center. So I can see where my two key poses are, and that is essentially a breakdown drawing that's in the very middle. So what I'm going to do is step backwards towards my first key pose and create another keyframe like that. drag this into the middle, this drawing, step back one more, create a keyframe, and drag this drawing into the very middle between those two. All that's left now is just to do that drawing between those two keyframes and drag that drawing as carefully as I can to the middle. So I've completed one half my timeline. I'm going to do the exact same on the other side. Between my breakdown drawing and my very last key pose, I'll create a new keyframe and drag that drawing across. And then step forward one, create a keyframe, drag my drawing to the middle, and finish that out with the very last drawing, make a keyframe there and drag it into the middle. So now if I turn off onion skinning, go back to frame 1 and hit enter, that's very even constant speed. Turn on onion skinning again and you can see how evenly spaced out all those drawings are. And I didn't really have to fuss too much about finding each of the middle points. Once you make your first halfway point and work backwards in halves and then work forwards in halves, breaking up the spacing that way, it's very easy. It's very straightforward to do. So I want you to practice this for a while if you can, just get comfortable making in-betweens and get comfortable spacing them out for really even constant speed.